late night, they ain't getting no rest. Work so hard, people think I'm obsessed. Cream at the crop, won't settle for no less. Headed to the top, remaining so focused. Yeah, gorilla of the jungle, I've been beating on my chest. I learned from the struggle, it was all just a test.
Hey guys, welcome back. So today we had some pretty big news over the weekend for Bitcoin and crypto, so we're going to get into that, cover the news, cover kind of my thoughts, as well as take a look at some potential scenarios, and then finish up on the charts. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this over here. So if you weren't aware, we did get some huge news here from the president. We saw here basically a tweet on post on Truth Social. U.S. crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration. So that's about choke point 2.0. I won't get into that previously, but we see here their executive order on digital assets directed with the presidential working group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve, saying that it will include XRP, Sol, and ADA here. So that's Ripple, Solana, and Cardano. Says here he will make sure the U.S. is the crypto capital of the world. They're making, without getting into the political side of things, I kind of want to talk about this. Obviously, this was the first post that came out, and there was no initial mention of Bitcoin or Ethereum, which was a little ridiculous. People were not happy, and kind of just flipping over to here, we see he was quick to rectify that. You know, I do see Trump, every time that people give him a hard time about things that he said he will do, as long as you're vocal enough, so the majority quite vocal, and he does kind of pay attention because he just wants to kind of pander to as many people as possible, I find, like any kind of politician. We see here, obviously, Bitcoin and ETH, as well as other valuable cryptocurrencies, will be at the heart of the reserve. That being said, you guys know my thoughts. I've said Bitcoin should be the only reserve asset that we're even considering at this point. The fact that we are trying to include some of these centralized currencies that have, they have founders, they have CEOs. Lots of the times, these CEOs have actually utilized these projects to increase their own personal net worth. So it doesn't make sense to me to have people who are in like a position of power. So in terms of an executive role within these cryptocurrencies, also in a role as an advisor to the president. That's a little ridiculous. That's a massive conflict of interest in my opinion. But obviously, you know, the market did really like it. So we saw Cardano, Solana, XRP, they were moved about 50, anywhere from 50 to like almost 100% move on the day. So a massive pump there for these cryptos. We saw Ethereum go up about 15%. We saw everything bouncing. Bitcoin moving from the low 80s back into the 90s. So really kind of a big push up there for crypto as a whole. We're going to try and take a look at everything going on. So I also wanted to kind of take a look. I was wondering, is there any way that we don't get this this kind of reserve that they're promising? So I kind of looking into whether Congress can prevent this from actually happening. So whether Congress can prevent them from establishing and purchasing cryptocurrencies is really going to depend on a few things. So that's executive authority, we've got congressional powers, and we've got specific mechanisms that are used to create and fund such a reserve. So it really depends the approach that the administration is going to take here, if they're able, and how much they're able to actually allocate to these kinds of funds or this kind of reserve. So the president has some leeway under the executive order to direct policy and issue executive orders. We've seen that with the creation of the Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets. So that's this group chaired by David Sachs. We'll get into that a little bit in a minute here because there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there as well, I do believe. So they are tasked with evaluating a national cryptocurrency stockpile and potentially by using assets seized through law enforcement efforts. So the U.S. government has billions and billions of dollars of seized Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So it wouldn't be unheard of for them to just be able to convert those seized assets to an actual strategic reserve. It can be beneficial. We saw recently Germany, they had a lot of Bitcoin that they had seized from illegal activities. They actually sold it at about $50,000 to $55,000 per Bitcoin, only for Bitcoin then to go up to $109 $9,000 within the next few months. So kind of a big kick in the teeth there. You know, if you sold low and then the price rips up. Yeah, so kind of that's the whole thing with this strategic reserve asset, is nobody really knows the kind of price appreciation potential of these assets. They're still very new. There's still not a lot of liquidity, not a lot of money in them relative to traditional financial assets and vehicles. So there is a lot of price appreciation potential. That being said, there is a lot of volatility that comes with that. So I could see Congress really trying to prevent them from kind of allocating new or existing funds towards this kind of reserve. That being said, there's nothing to say that they can't convert these seized assets to a strategic reserve. I actually think that would be a pretty smart idea in my opinion, and I hope that's kind of what happens, and that would kind of lead us into having a majority Bitcoin focused reserve, not spending public taxpayer money on cryptocurrencies, especially with some of the conflicts of interest with some of these more centralized currencies that have actual teams, actual CEOs. You know, there definitely are some conflicts of interest there that don't exist within Bitcoin. So we do want to see Bitcoin being the primary reserve asset if any is going to come through. So we do see here basically by converting these seized assets, they essentially bypass the need for new congressional funding or approval. However, Congress holds the power of purse under Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, meaning it controls federal spending. So they are the ones who determine what the public taxpayer money is spent on. So they could have the opportunity to block those purchases of new cryptocurrencies if Congress decides that it's not within the best interests of everyone's kind of speaking there. So if we take a look at congressional tools that they can use to intervene, they can use legislative action. So they could pass a law explicitly prohibiting the creation of a cryptocurrency reserve or restrict the use of seized assets for this purpose. You know, I'd hope that they don't restrict the use of seized assets, because I argue there is some value in that. But I do see they could pass laws that prevent them from utilizing new or existing funds elsewhere for things like this. We see appropriation restrictions that basically they could attach riders to budget bills that prevent the use of federal funds to buy or maintain cryptocurrencies. And they also have oversight and investigations. So committees like the House Financial Services Committee or Senate Banking Committee could launch inquiries, which would throw a little bit of a wrench into kind of the process of trying to acquire these reserve assets. So analysts are split on whether an act of Congress is required to establish the reserve. So some are suggesting that they could utilize the Treasury's Exchange Stabilization Fund, or the ESF fund, to designate allocate money towards cryptocurrencies, because this is essentially designed to stabilize currency markets, but there's no stipulations in there that kind of say which currencies can and can't be purchased. So they might have a little bit of leeway there. That's one of the things I'm kind of thinking of, is I'm not set on the fact that people are saying, you know, the government's going to be acquiring billions and billions of dollars of these assets. It's not going to be that easy. It has to get through Congress. There's going to be a lot of people who are kind of against this, and rightfully so, in my opinion. You know, I don't think a crypto reserve is what we need or want. I'm happy with a Bitcoin reserve. I think that makes sense as a kind of the digital gold factor, but everything else is not proven enough. It's not decentralized enough, so we lose that whole decentralization aspect that everyone has been fighting for 15 years now. So hopefully we just see just some sensible lawmakers really trying to protect the public money first and foremost, and then get that conversion. We might have a little bit of leeway in terms of different funds kind of that they're able to use to fund this kind of reserve, but I don't think it's going to be the drastic amount that everybody is expecting it to be. We see here he did name Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano in the reserve. We see that also there was a White House Crypto Summit on March 7th. Essentially, this might clarify the administration's funding strategy, as there's been no budget proposal yet, and Congress's stance currently remains fluid. So right now, Congress can prevent Trump and David Sachs from establishing and purchasing cryptocurrencies for a strategic reserve if it withholds funding or passes prohibitive legislation, but only if it musters the political will and votes. So it still needs to have majority approval in terms of Congress there. So it's something we will continue following. But that being said, you know, we do have some hope that maybe some more risk-averse minds in Congress will really push against this terms of, like, especially the crypto side. You know, as I said, I'm happy with a Bitcoin reserve, but the kind of the centralized altcoins, you know, not interested in those, especially as a reserve asset. They're not proven enough. So I want to show you quickly over here. We were watching kind of the USD inflows into Binance. So we saw price was essentially coming down all through here, through these last week here, about a week. And then we saw just billions of dollars coming into the exchange here. Kind of interesting that we saw so much inflows right before this major announcement over here. But we did get that rip back to the upside. We kind of pointed that out in the past. When you see these major instances of inflows, generally it kind of marks a local low and you get that relief rally to the upside. So it is something we were watching and something we kind of witnessed here as well. Flipping over, we'll take a look at our Bitcoin ETFs because we want to always be aware of what's going on in the markets. So we were going through kind of a major period of outflows right through here. It has flipped green a little bit. You know, for the most part, when we do flip green, apart from a few instances, you know, we rarely do flip back to red right away. So apart from this instance right here, we had one green bar, kind of over here, one green bar, flipping back to red. So same right there. So we'll see what happens. We want to see those continued inflows, and hopefully that will mark the current low of Bitcoin for now, at least the local low. So I want to talk about some interesting timing and what might be considered a conflict of interest. So this was a very weird position that essentially before the news came out, like within 24 hours before the news came out, somebody went long on Bitcoin and Ethereum. They used $4 million of margin and they went on a 50 times leverage long. So that is insane. So essentially the price would just need to move 2% to liquidate him on that position, and he would lose that entire $4 million. So a very risky position. If you looked at the charts at the time, you know, there's no reason I don't think that anyone who's actually a kind of risk-averse investor would go 50x long on Bitcoin and Ethereum when the charts weren't really supporting that kind of thesis, unless they had some knowledge of some news coming out. So we see here, he's closed most of the trades, raked in $6.4 million in a single day. His timing was perfect right before that True Social post are kind of hinting towards that U.S. crypto reserve. If crypto dipped 2%, he would have got liquidated, lost that 4 mil. He somehow, you know, perfectly timed the bottom with a ridiculously risky position. You know, no one in their right mind, I don't think, would really take a position like that unless they had some kind of knowledge. So he's cashed out. He's made his millions within a day. That being said, that looks really fishy to me. You know, it doesn't make sense. Who enters a position like that so conveniently timed? You know, it's a little bit interesting. So there's also kind of another little conflict of interest here. David Sachs, who is Trump's crypto czar, so he is the main advisor to Trump for crypto and Bitcoin. He is the primary investor of Bitwise, and Bitwise is a fund that buys and holds certain cryptocurrencies. And guess which cryptocurrencies are the main holdings here in Bitwise? We see Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Cardano. So pretty interesting that the main advisor to Trump for crypto has a pretty big kind of has a lot of incentive to push these specific cryptocurrencies because it's what's held by the fund that he was the primary investor in. He was also a seed investor via one of his companies as well as his personal own money. So despite the fact David Sachs has divested his own personal cryptocurrency holdings, according to kind of news sources when he did come into his position as crypto czar, that being said, you know, he is still a seed investor of Bitwise. He is still the primary investor of Bitwise, and so for that reason I do think there's a bit of a conflict of interest there. You know, it's not unheard of. There's a lot of insider trading that goes on in these things. That's why, you know, I'm not fully sold on the whole altcoins. Most things, you know, if they have a CEO or a team, lots of the times that they're kind of benefiting, you know, it funds their lifestyle. They get paid through that way. A lot of the times they have early allocations to these different projects. It's not the same fair standard and decentralization that that you get with Bitcoin, and it shouldn't be treated the same. So we obviously saw suspected insider trading around this event. During the launch of Trump's meme coin, there was definitely insider trading around there. A lot of people knowing that this, they just get this knowledge beforehand. So the same thing we see with Congress members and stock trading. We've seen Nancy Pelosi kind of being highlighted here as a, it's not proven in court or anything because they're really good at covering their tracks, but there's a lot of dots to connect that kind of really show these people of power using their inside knowledge of markets to take positions and profit off them. Crypto is an easy one. He could have told anyone in his family. It could have been any one of his friends taking that long position. He says, I'm going to release a tweet saying that we're going to launch a crypto reserve, and what's to stop, his son from going and opening a long position, or, it's really hard to kind of trust these people. That there's insider trading going on. If it's happening in traditional finance, it's happening everywhere. So we have to be aware of that, and we don't risk too much. We don't chase things. So when we see Cardano up 100% on the day, and people are freaking out, wondering what to do, do they buy right now? You never buy into a chart like that. If things go straight up, like I say, they never actually go straight up. They make people think that they are going to continue going. You buy into the top, things retrace to their support, you capitulate at the lows, smart money picks up the shares that you're capitulating at the lows and then runs it back up. So really designed to take advantage of the human emotion that I talk about, and that's why I say the main things I want to focus on to help you guys are managing your emotion, managing your risk, and being patient. And if you do those three things successfully, you can really kind of protect yourself as well as take advantage of opportunities. So that's enough now for the news. We know what's going on. We're going to flip over to markets right now, take a look at what's going on here. So we see the dollar coming down a little bit, minus 1% here, just losing these lows right here. So that is ideal. We want to see that dollar continuing to break down. As I said, we kind of will have a little bit of a relief rally up here, I assume, because we can kind of see our momentum indicators getting a little bit more oversold, ready to turn around. That being said, watch for the lower high. So I'm going to pull my Fibonacci tool here, look for a resistance level. So anywhere up here, in between the 618, 786, even the 0.5 can offer a valid resistance level. So if we do come back up, watch for that rejection here, continued downtrend price action. That's what we want to see if we want to see Bitcoin and altcoins go on to outperform. We see the US 10-year kind of flat-ish on the day, holding these lows rate, not quite, and a little bit lower. So US 10-year kind of remains in that technical downtrend. Flipping over to the SPY, it opened green on the day, flipped red, and is recovering a little bit now. So you do see we came back, we tested kind of this support rate through here, bouncing a little bit, but we do still have this heavy sell order block right in through here. So a lot of resistance. We see our 50-day moving average here. We see kind of a bearish setup on the DMI. So that orange line crossing with the blue line, heading up with the blue going down. That's a bearish setup on the directional movement index. We also see here kind of curling over on this double top on the RSI here. So we could expect a little bit more downside. This is the hourly chart, so I don't think it's going to have the momentum to take out the highs that we need if we want to continue this uptrend structure. I don't have a crystal ball, though I can't predict it. Maybe we do see, if we see something like this where we break out to the top of this resistance zone, backtest our 50-day moving average and bounce, and we're supported by our momentum indicators at this time here. So right now we're kind of overbought, a little overheated. If we break out, come back, back test this level, and the indicators now look oversold or kind of undervalued, then that might offer a decent opportunity to enter a position here as a start of a swing trade. That being said, we'll look at kind of the high time frame and see, because it does to me on the daily right now, we're still in that lower high, lower low structure. So we kind of were up here losing our uptrend structure, and then we just need more work to do. It looks like we are getting a little bit of bullish momentum on the daily chart here. So this could be a temporary low for now, assuming it holds. But that being said, we can still come back to 585 up to about 590 or so, and I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see that retracement play out. So just continuing to watch that. Kind of mixed results across the board. TLT flat down a little bit. Gold getting a little bit of a bump up here, bouncing from our support level. So we'll see here if it can kind of continue, break out, take out this low time frame structure here. Looks pretty good on our momentum indicators for for now. But I want to get into kind of crypto more so. We'll take a look. I'm not going to get too crazy into things, because we want to wait for confirmation on the charts before we start to get too aggressive. Obviously, we saw that massive pump yesterday, but look what happens today, guys. Solana down 10%, Cardano down 14%, Doge down 10%. Lots of different coins here down 5, 10, 15%. That's why we don't chase those crazy moves. I'll show you on Cardano specifically here, because that one was insane yesterday. So we look here. Yeah, look at this, guys. We're in this downtrend, still in that downtrend, and the issue with these catalyst driven news events is there's no way to predict it. I can't predict when Trump's going to come out and make a tweet that pumps markets temporarily in the near term. That being said, news driven catalysts are rarely ever sustainable from the beginning. They always come back and retest support before continuing up. So that's what I talk about, waiting for confirmation, wait for that structure. So right here with Cardano, just absolutely destroying all the resistance through here, well above the 50-day moving average. But if you bought up here, you're down 15, 20%. So that's why we don't chase a candle like this. Just be patient, manage that emotion, pull your entries, and wait for them to come to your levels before entering there. So if we took a look at Cardano here on the daily chart, we'll pull our fib from the swing low to the swing high. We see our 50-day moving average right through here, and we see our 0.5 Fibonacci kind of right in between our golden zones. So just looking here, it might be a decent little swing potential here for Cardano, kind of in this region through here, because we're probably going to come back, retest that support as I said prior. So we're just watching that. We want to make sure that these lows are holding. So if I was to enter Cardano here in a swing position, I would have a stop loss kind of below support down here, just protecting it, because if we do continue breaking down, that's just continued downtrend price action. It means that this was just a news driven pump and it's not actually sustainable. So a lot of it's going to depend kind of the rhetoric that we get going forward in this crypto summit coming up this weekend. But we'll also take a look at Solana here. Another one pumped up pretty amazingly here, but see big candle coming back. So just watching these zones, guys, nothing goes straight up. We always come back, retest support, and build out that structure. So we are looking looking better here in terms of price action. So we did see, I kind of had this swing trade marked in Solana and looked pretty good. We got up here to the 200-day, didn't quite get to the actual target there, but that's fine. So we'll just get rid of that for now. But if we take a look here, essentially we have this price action now. So on the 4-hour, we're trying to print that continued uptrend structure. So we've got our higher low, we've got our higher high, our higher low. So the problem now with such a major extension rate here, the high that we need to take out in terms of continuing our uptrend structure is going to be a little bit tougher, because we have to show a lot more strength to make that same kind of move and take out these highs. That's what I want to see. But right now, we've got one higher low, one higher high, and then 2 higher lows. So not quite enough confirmation for me personally to get very aggressive in anything. I'm looking at a few starter positions in different altcoins. That being said, for now, I'm going to also start putting in stop losses. So I want to show you here, we're going to look at some of the indices more so. So we look at Total 3, because Total 3 is the total altcoin market cap, essentially, of the major altcoins. So we did see kind of these moves here. Essentially, I showed kind of a few different times where we saw this big move here. We saw RSI kind of MACD bottom and a big move off the lows, big move off the lows. But you see every single time except for this one here, basically the initial run off the lows that started our parabolic move, this was the only sustainable uptrend rally so far. This one ultimately just broke down, bled to new lows. This one ultimately broke down, bled to new lows, but you see how it offered this swing trade potential. So we did kind of, we're just watching that. We're going to see if this is going to be a sustainable run or if it's going to just continue breaking down. So we need to watch that. Just zooming back into things over here, we'll take a look. I'll just pull this. So you see, look at all that selling volume up right through there. So a lot of people, more people taking profits essentially right into the 50-day moving average. For now, it's looking pretty good. We are losing a little bit of momentum. The RSI kind of curling back over. So we want to see that really curl up, get another little leg here. Kind of a bit neutral-ish in terms of the DMI right? So not really anything too crazy going on right now. You do see we took out all these highs through here, and then as long as we hold the lows right through here, so anything above 785 billion in terms of the total 3 market cap, as long as we keep bouncing and showing strength, we can continue that uptrend structure that we're looking for, and we want to see that really print on the daily chart here. So looking at the daily, because we want confirmation on the high time frame and not the low time frame. So we'll take a look here. We see our momentum indicators kind of showing a little bit of loss of momentum here. Same thing with the RSI and MACD. That's what I meant by, nothing goes straight up, so we just pull our Fibonacci, and then in total 3 we're looking, that would be the first higher high, look for our first higher low, that would be 2 data points, and then so if we come back and we bounce from here holding these lows, we take out these highs, and then we come back and print subsequent higher lows right through here. This is going to be a better entry in alts because we will have kind of more confirmation on the daily time frame. So we're watching for that, not getting too aggressive, and just looking at others' dominance. So despite total 3 kind of really showing some strength, others' dominance did not really get the same kind of strength there. We are sitting at kind of high time frame support, but because the main cryptos that were involved in that announcement were some of the top 10, others not getting the love that it kind of needed there, but it's still holding its lows for now. So take a look on the very low time frame. So actually we are in a downtrend. We were kind of consolidating right through here. So others' dominance is in this downtrend. We need to see more work from it. I do have this Fibonacci zone marked through here and kind of a bearish setup across our momentum indicators. So total 3 showing some strength, others' dominance showing a little bit more weakness. We'll take a look at Ethereum Bitcoin here. Ethereum Bitcoin also not able to hold its lows right now in that downtrend structure, showing that bearish momentum on the DMI with more room to come down on the RSI and MACD. So it's very interesting that we're seeing kind of more strength from total 3. So the assets like Solana, Doge, Cardano, Chainlink, all these major top cryptos are showing more strength than the smaller alts, and they're also showing more strength than Ethereum. So Ethereum not quite bottomed yet. We're still waiting for that confirmation, that uptrend structure. It seems like every time we start to build it, it just breaks down, and that's why I wait for confirmation on the high time frame. So you'll see me look at the hourly and the 4-hourly chart. That being said, I'm not taking trades really based on them, or if I'm taking a trade based on this time frame, it's a much shorter trade. So I call that a swing or a scalp trade. Essentially, I'm just looking to get in and out of a position. I'm not necessarily looking to capture a macro uptrend move. I'm just recognizing some potentials in the charts. So there is opportunities even without kind of confirmation of the macro uptrend for little swing trades, but they are high risk. So just remember that going forward. Always waiting for confirmation in terms of the higher time frame backed by our technical indicator setup is what's going to give you the most confidence and really going to compound the most returns in the long run. I just like to use swing trades and scalp trades as a little extra practice almost. It's a good way. I use the exact same analysis that I use on my high time frame, but I just use it on a lower time frame with kind of more conservative targets. So it's just something to kind of keep me fresh, keeps me up to date, keeps my skills sharp. And other than that, we just continue watching the charts, watch for that confirmation. Bitcoin dominance getting a little bit of a push up here. So we were kind of putting in that uptrend structure, massive breakdown through here. We did break out of it, and we are in that low time frame uptrend for now. Looks like a good setup across the indicators here. So watch for dominance. I have kind of this area here as resistance. So up from 61.7 up to about 62.25%. A lot of resistance for Bitcoin dominance. If we take a look at it on the weekly, we want to see this topping for our altcoins to really go on to outperform. You guys know my thoughts about that. So for now, it's just lower highs on the weekly. Wait for that confirmation and hopeful continued breakdown. Also, USDT dominance. So this is another one. Look at this, guys. Just beautiful double bottom, almost a triple bottom there. Bouncing from this support line right below our 786 Fibonacci and coming back up into the 50 and 200 day. It's above the 50 day in terms of support here, but also coming into this downsloping trend line, rejected there for now. We'll see what happens. Either we get our lower high. So hopefully we continue to see USDT dominance breaking down, and we continue to see Bitcoin dominance breaking breaking down so that we can get an altcoin season or to see alts and Ethereum outperform. So that being said, it's really going to depend kind of the rhetoric going forward on this crypto summit on the 7th. So we'll see what happens. We're going to be watching it. You know, we just focus on the charts. We're not getting too crazy. We don't chase anything. We don't get emotional. We chart our levels. We wait patiently and we pull the trigger when it makes technical sense to do so. So if you like the content, if you learned something new, please like, share, subscribe. It all means the world to me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.